Didn't know, didn't even see the tide change.
Indie rock isn't limited to a certain sound. It's what artists want it to be. Musicians are free to voice their opinions in ways that are unrestricted. For women, confidence was needed in all aspects to make their dreams come true. We interviewed multiple strong, passionate, and intuitive women to get a better understanding of female representation in indie rock. Uncovering all the elements of DIY throughout our research, we discovered the hidden female musicians and professionals to get to know indie rock in the Omaha scene. You may not be able to see it today, but in some Omaha buildings, venues for indie rock thrived. Places like the Cog Factory made Omaha special to the indie rock family, getting the word out about bands like Lavender Couch and Park Ave to welcome them to the community. Indie, meaning independent, was really based on the DIY aspect of music production. Independent labels like Saddle Creek Records in Omaha also allowed artists to be authentic to themselves, let their creativity come through, and offer support.
Today was just like every other day.
One of the Lincoln bands that I really liked, and I would try to go and see as many times as I could, was a band called The Click. And they had a woman sing. Her name was Sarah Cavanda, and she was amazing. She sang and then played keyboards, and they had a bass player, a guitar player, a drummer, and they just played complicated, fun, high energy, just music, and I don't know, Sarah Cavanda just made it look really easy. She made it look fun. She was, I just couldn't take my eyes off her. She was beautiful, she was amazing. I thought she was incredible.
I love Jenny Lewis, of course, and she really kind of took us under her wing when we were first starting out. We opened up for her, oh my gosh, and her band at the time, Rilo Kiley. We opened up for them so many times. I mean, I can't even count how many times we opened up for them, but she really took us under her wing and just taught us things like backstage etiquette, things that we just had no idea because we'd always toured with our really close friends.
Wayne was more than happy to school us on whatever it was that he thought he was doing. So he said, you gotta have t-shirts, you've gotta have you have to have flyers, you've gotta make it a show. The Flaming Lips are, they have lights and smoke machines and lasers. They are, a traveling circus. Wayne had a list, so this is a handwritten list of addresses and phone numbers and people of different places across the country to go play. And he said, I'll have Michelle was his, I think it was his girlfriend, then to be wife, but she was booking the shows. Her name was Michelle. And Michelle put it into an envelope, put a stamp on it, and sent it to us. And we opened it up, opened the letter, and there are all the places to play. And so what we were told was, you have a cassette, and then you mail things to people, and then you call them, and then you tell them you'll be there on Tuesday night and you'll play for nothing, or $50. I think you still play for $50.
Just on a personal level, I always try to be really encouraging to women and young girls that are writing music in Omaha or musicians. There's Omaha Girls Rock, which is a wonderful organization, and they're really doing great work and really empowering young girls. My daughter actually just was old enough to take the Little Girls Rock Camp.
In 2011, myself and a couple other people started Omaha Girls Rock, which is a rock camp for girls ages 8 to 18. And there are a lot of really amazing female musicians volunteering and working with young kids to encourage them to take risks, try something they haven't tried before, work with other young women. And so
definitely the Cog Factory in Omaha. Yeah, a wonderful place to play because it really was in the middle of, sort of a blighted area. and it was just four walls.
Cog Factory was a dump, but it was a musician's dump. This was a place where everyone could go and listen to music. The Cog Factory was an all-age venue with no alcohol, which was crucial to some of the bands that had high school age members. This establishment was found on 2224 Leavenworth Street. It opened in 1994, but it was completely closed down in 2002. The Cog Factory closed due to $28,000 of unpaid taxes. The Cog Factory was more male-dominated with a few female groups such as Lavender Couch, Mercy Rule, Tilly and the Wall, and Park Avenue.
The Cog Factory, and that was like totally mind-blowing for me as just a young woman, seeing all these amazing people on stage and just totally pouring their hearts and souls into their music. And there was women, there was men, and it was just a very accepting community. And yeah, that's kind of where my first show, I was in Park Ave, and had total stage fright, and still kind of get that if we haven't played in a long time. But the very first show I ever played at was at the Cog Factory, and I was just like shaking the whole time, crying. I don't even know what happened during the show, but like I made it through, and I felt just like, oh my gosh, if I can do that, I can do anything.
The Cog Factory was really active at that time, and we had there were all ages shows at the Cog Factory. A couple of our band members were still in high school when we were a band, and so that kind of meant that although we could go play at a bar or something, Cog Factory was really nice because it was an all ages venue.
The Sokol Auditorium is a beautiful piece of history which sits at 2234 South 13th Street and Martha. There were two levels to the Sokol, the top, which is a big auditorium where big bands play, and Sokol Underground. Sokol Underground was a small room where most indie rock bands played, including Mercy Rule, Tilly and the Wall, Lavender Couch, Park Ave, The Faint, Bright Eyes, and many, many more. The underground was very loud and often left people half deaf. The bathrooms were very scary. If a small band moves to the main stage upstairs, you know they were a big hit. A fun fact is that Sokol means falcon in Czech, and it was a Czech cultural community center before it was an auditorium.
One more step, baby, you'll survive. Just play guitar, don't look them in the eye. They're all here to see you.
Well, we were always DIY Lavender Couch because we were broke. No label picked us up, and we didn't really have money to, at the time it was you either made a record or a cassette. Well, we couldn't afford a record, so we made a cassette. And we did it locally with our good friend Gary Lind at Eclipse Studio, and we designed the cover. Our friend took the picture. I think she hand wrote it all out. We printed it at Kinko's, and then we folded it all in there, and we had it printed locally, the actual cassette. So it was very DIY, because to me DIY is what you can do and what you can afford to make things happen. And that's how I've approached all of my bands, because I don't have any money, but I want to put something out. We'll just make it at home. So that's what we did. And DIY, I think, makes it accessible. Whatever you want to do, as long as you can do it, do it.
Lavender Couch was an all-women, all-lesbian band with 4 people, which was active in the 90s. They participated in the LGBTQ+ community and were supporters of men and women alike. They played at the Cog Factory and the Sokol Underground, as well as other venues across the city and the Midwest.
So us not knowing any better, we literally pick up the phone and call Ani DeFranco and say, hey, oh my God, we totally love you. We're in Omaha. Will you come play here? She's like, yeah, $300 and an airline ticket. Well, $300, we're like, how are we gonna make $300? So I think we played some shows, and we made $300, and she came. And she slept on my bass player's floor. We all hung out. And we had her play at a little, you know how apartments have like a meeting room or a rec room? There was one right across from the fire station downtown that somebody lived in, and we rented that room for like $100. We got a keg of beer, and we opened for Ani DeFranco. And I still look back at that and think, what in the world? Because we didn't know any better. We didn't know, I don't know, just ask her. And she came, and it was amazing. And she radically changed me, and she radically changed how Lavender Couch was as a band.
As we are passing out, this list and telling people, we're showing people how to screen print t-shirts. We're, it was very much a DIY, do it yourself. And John got really good at building lofts in your van.
I don't know that I know anybody that's kind of been in the position that I'm in, which isn't all that unique necessarily.
Like I said, there was a lot of men and women that were really supportive within our community. We did kind of experience like a bit of a backlash in Omaha when we first started, just people kind of thinking we were a joke because we had 3 women in our band.
Every single show we got really good for some girls, pretty good for chicks. It was so exhausting. And it was like, the first time you're like, oh, okay, thanks. And then you're like, what does that even mean? What does that mean? I really liked you. I'm surprised because you guys are girls. And it's like, what are you talking about? Okay.
What happens on tour sometimes is I will be outside of the bus and the security at the club or something will think that I'm like a fan that has gotten through instead of somebody that belongs there. I've had that happen.
The obstacles that I faced as a woman in music, I think there's just, not only in music, but in a lot of things in society, there's just this assumption that women are supposed to be the bystanders. I can't tell you how many times I sat on the floor and watched men have band practice or listened to them talk about music. And I had a lot of female friends who were really interested in music and loved music and probably could have played music, but for whatever reason they just didn't. In Park Ave, the 2 guys who were in the band, they didn't even play the instruments that they played in that band. So like Connor was really a guitarist, and he decided he was going to play drums for Park Ave. And Clark was really a drummer, but he decided he was going to play guitar. And I think there's a societal understanding that men can just say, oh, well, I want to do this. I'm going to do it and I'm going to be good at it. And I don't know if that really exists so much.
Within the music scene, I find that sometimes I'm not taken seriously as a studio manager. And that could be exchanging emails with the head of a record label in London or something. Or I'm seen as just the wife, or as just the mother with the child on the tour. And I think it's important for not just my husband, but the other men in the scene too, and women, to realize for some of my friends, I'm the only non-musical person they know. It's not actively playing in a band, and I think it's humbling sometimes to know somebody that is just better at logistics than creativity on that level.
We wrote about lots of stuff. There was no such thing as gay marriage back in the early 90s, so we had a song that we wrote called Wife. We wrote a song about Handmaid's Tale, which is a Margaret Atwood book, which is now really popular, I think, on Hulu, but we wrote about it then. We were angry young lesbians. We had a lot to say, and we tried to say it in our 2 to 3 minute songs. And it did. We wrote about whatever. No bars hold.
You're asking how the hashtag Me Too movement will impact women in the music industry. I think it has impacted. On some levels, I have seen like musicians kind of feeling more empowered. And I think those are issues that have always been talked about in songs, like oppression, abuse. Those are themes that I think are like timeless themes, but I think people are really listening a little bit more. And I think really, instead of glossing over it like, oh, that song's about that, I'm not really gonna like dive into that with any depth. But I think they're like, oh my goodness, we should really like pay attention to those songs or pay attention to what the artist is saying.
I wear t-shirts to my neck. I wear things to my knees, to the neck, to the knees, because I really wasn't interested in exposing myself physically to attract male attention at all, like ever. I'm really not interested in that at all. And so did that keep us at a certain level as a band? It's possible.
I think it's getting better. Like I mentioned before, I'm seeing more women on stage locally, whether solo acts like CJ Mills is really great. Unfortunately, she's leaving town. Incredibly talented. But I would imagine, especially she's a woman of color, that her finding venues to take her on as a solo artist too, she would probably tell you it's more difficult than a male. And I have friends, female friends that still play locally, and they'll be on a bill if there's 3 bands, and she will always the next day give the ratio of men to women on the stage, including or the sound person behind the board too, because that's also somebody that is important to live performance anyway.
I think things are changing. I think you can definitely see a lot more respect for the women who are playing music, and I think it has to be a conscious change, but I think it's changing a little bit.
For us, we just did what we loved. We stayed true to what we enjoyed doing. Like when we started the band, all I wanted to do was write music. All I wanted to do was working on music, practicing music, getting our music out there. So we just kind of pushed through that opposition. And I think now what's nice is I don't feel like things are changing. There's still a long way to go. But hopefully it doesn't seem so weird that there's like 3 women in a band now.
I'm hoping that a legacy that I have is, first of all, that I have played.
The opportunity to perform can really be empowering for a lot of people, and especially for women.
But hopefully I've given some people some reasons to do something. How about that?
And what's fun about Tilly is that no one ever told me no. No one ever told me that's crazy. They just said, go for it, it's amazing, keep do more of it. And so I really felt the freedom to go and do all those things and felt really supported.
Playing out here in the Midwest, the crowds out here are they won't take that. They don't like bullshit. They just want to know, is it honest? Is it you? Is it real? And if it isn't, they don't really care. They are not interested in you.
Started with the tap dance influence in our music. We'll start it in Park Ave, my first band. I actually played guitar, and we didn't have a drummer at the time. And I just said, I'll just tap to keep a beat. I can tap dance. And so I started just to do that, to keep a beat. And then we were like, this is actually kind of fun. Like, I'm gonna start tapping on some songs. So in that first band, I played guitar in most of the songs and tap danced on 3 to 4 of our songs. We had maybe 15 total, like in our entire library of music. So I tap danced on a few songs. And then with Tilly, I really was with, I feel like, a really great group of talented people. And I was like, I can kind of play guitar, I can kind of sing, but I'm really great at tap dancing. So that was like my full focus.
I like Nebraska because there's room. There's room out here. There's a lot of room. The sky, there's a lot of room in the sky. There's a lot of room everywhere. So whatever it is you come up with, there's room for you. Bleh, punk rock.